Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. No long, okay. Great to see so many of you committed, really committed to fintech, like I am. I'm a managing partner and founder of dLK Group, which is a regulatory compliance strategy and policy consultancy to fintech industry for at least the last recent 10 years. What I want to share with you today and to encourage you to take a bit interest is the open banking, which I hope you may have seen in the agenda. And in the open banking forum, be quite a very specific perspective. This is digital acceleration. This is what we all live now. Open banking is only this small part, the software on the digital acceleration wave. But still, it's very important. It's extremely important and very interesting. Why? Because this is the digital acceleration which has just become obligatory. So due to the regulations in the EU, which Poland is part of, a member of, now the banks, mainly banks, have to innovate. They have to build up APIs. They have to open for fintechs. And this is what I wanted to, my intention is to tell you a bit about it, how it works, how it will work. And this actually happens because today actually there is no option, no choice for either the non-banking processes or banking processes than to test digitization. So everyone needs to test digitization, whether the digitization needs to be absorbed or makes no sense, and probably every aspect of the process on Earth's life needs this test. And it happens. You can see all over the EU that next or a number of banks are opening sandboxes, are opening open banking interfaces, some of them in the non-regulated space, some of them within regulated, like in the UK, because as usually they are ahead of the rest of the EU. And this is the example of the HSBC you may see, which in the app offers looking into the accounts that are operated by the other banks. So one app to serve them all. So how actually this works? I would like to show you in 3 steps. So what open banking we actually have, who will be the first adopters? Let's remember that open banking as a regulation means that someone has to implement it, whether they want or not, and the others, and this is the invitation to fintechs, which may include, and it includes usually banks, obviously, which are supposed to make use of this innovation for the benefit of us or the customer. So this is the main part. So who will be the first adopters? Where we see the opportunities, and we actually work with our customers which started to see the opportunities, and they are not necessarily the smallest startups or smallest fintechs. Usually today, each startup, each fintech startup asks the question, what open bank can do to me? How can I benefit from open banking, from the PSD2? Because this is the official name of the that's not work very well. This is the official name of the act that implements open banking into the EU regulation. So who actually will be the first adopters? This is the main point of my presentation. And the third point is how. If you find it interesting to adopt, to implement open banking as a user of open banking implemented by the banks, so how you should approach, how you should start. So the first thing, what open banking we do have in Europe. So what actually the regulation has to offer for the benefiters, and on the other hand, on the account servicing providers as those who must implement it, whether they want or not. And in 3 blocks, it is the following. Each provider of a payment account in Europe must make the account reachable, I'm joking from time to time, reachable from internet. So each account in Europe, each payment account must be connected to internet. Connected to internet means that it has to be available in an interface which can be machine readable, and it can be readable by a provider, user provider. So the account holder has 2 providers, has the bank who operates the account and has the third party. And this third party, due to this regulation, can access the account in order to read the account and write post-transactions on the account. And what it practically means for both sides, I mean for those who operate the account today, who need to implement the open banking, and for those who may benefit from it. So for those who operate, it is very cumbersome because they have to either upgrade today's home banking interface or develop completely new dedicated interface. So it is a huge IT job. What it means for the other side, for those who want to benefit from the open banking, so who want to read or write my account, not being my bank. So this is the bad news, they need license. But the good news is that you don't need the full banking or full e-money license. It's also enough to have a more or less simple registration. But this is something what I'm gonna cover in a few minutes. Let me now tell a bit more about the characteristic itself. So what actually you can do in the open banking, or on the other hand, what you need to offer to make available in the interface if you are an operator of the account. And this is all consumed in two provisions of this famous PSD2. So what you actually need to do and on the other can do is access the information on the account. This is the reading function, or write, initiate payments. There are a lot of small details around it. And it makes no sense to discuss it. This is for those who are really interested or just became interested. But the most important thing out of this table is what information you can get. And this is what you see in this read column, which is name, surname, account number, balance, transactions, and what payment can be initiated. And it is the transaction, mostly credit transfer. So this is what you have at your disposal if you are ready to implement open banking in your great fintech idea. The question is, fine, it really looks good, but how about the harmonization? I can imagine that someone handles the thing that the bank has to implement the interface, the API. But hold on a moment, we have 6,000 banks in Europe. If every bank in Europe implements its own interface, then I have 6,000 interfaces to read and implement. Is it really so? Unfortunately, for the time being, yes. There are only 6 initiatives in Europe where the banks, and actually in a broader sense, the payment services providers, try to deliver something altogether, which means that they either do the national implementation, like Polish API, which you see, or SBR, which is Slovak one, or Open Banking UK, or STED, French one. We have, on the other hand, 2 horizontal, which is Berlin Group and CAPS, Convenient Access to Payment Services. So you should definitely look at it, because some of them will become leading interfaces and they will really provide the harmonization across Europe. The very important thing, one of the key things is that there is a perfect and beautiful answer to the question whether how hard is it to negotiate the contract to use the interface of the bank and how much I will pay for it. Both answers are no. There is no contract needed and you pay nothing to the bank for using the interface. This is all provided by the regulation. This is bad news for the banks, good news for the fintechs. But we all remember, banks are invited to this community the same as the smaller or bigger fintechs are. It happens, it's developed in Poland. We are a bit delayed with implementing the legislation, but whatever delay we actually will see, this whole process will take place not later than September 2019 in full. So beginning September 2019, which means 18 months after so-called RTS enters into force, it's ready, the interfaces must be in place. So who will be the first adopters? Where we see the potential, where we see the guys that are really ready to do this. So the first and most obvious are all that need profiling, that need your user experience, which is leasing, insurance, financing, factoring, telcos. This is where most interest is now expressed with respect to the open banking. But there's a lot of opportunity for banks. Definitely, you can start advertising. If you don't want to change the account, change the app. Switch the account to my bank. You don't need to close your old account. You can still look at your account in my home banking. There's a lot of opportunities. What I like most is we can start thinking of something like smart contracts in banking. Imagine factoring, silent factoring. Once the factoring provider can read my account, if the factoring provider sees that the payment for the invoice has arrived, it can immediately initiate payment order or direct debit, actually. So there's a lot of opportunities. I know, I'm jumping to the next and last section. So how you need to, what you need to do, how you can do it. Definitely, you need a license because it's not for everyone. There's no question if you are accessing the accounts, you need to have either license or entry into register. The good thing is that you don't need full license. It's enough just to register, although the bad thing is that you need insurance. So before you apply for registrations, you need insurance. The very important question is to where you choose to be licensed or registered. And when you think of it, you definitely need to pay attention to what happens in Lithuania at this moment.
Krzysztof, we're going to have to interrupt. I'm really, really sorry.
Okay.
Let's get to the slide with your contact details, because I'm sure people here will want to chat with you. So
okay.
We can go to that slide that has contact details. We can continue the conversation because you're hopefully sticking around at the conference.